Rain fell in heavy sheets across Joint Base Lewis McChord, drumming against the tin roof of the Military Working Dog Transition Center like echoes of far-off mortars. Sergeant First Class Marcus Hale pushed open the double doors, water dripping from his coat onto the polished concrete. His prosthetic leg clicked with each measured step, a sound he had grown used to but never fully accepted. 8 years had passed since an IED outside Fallujah stole his left leg below the knee, left a jagged scar across his cheek, and took the sight from his right eye. Dark glasses concealed the worst of it now. At 38, he still held the broad, solid build of the Marine who had once charged through doorways under fire, pulling wounded brothers to safety, but the war had hollowed him in quieter ways. Sleepless nights, sudden flashes of light behind his eyes, silence that pressed against his chest like a weight he couldn't shift. His VA counselor had spoken plainly during their last session. Therapy helps, Marcus, but you need more. You need someone who understands trauma without needing explanations. Someone who feels it too. A dog like that could change everything. Marcus had nodded, said little. Words never felt like enough anymore. So he came here, to this low gray building on the edge of the base, hoping for something real. Specialist Riley, early 20s, fresh-faced and still saluting too sharply, met him just inside. Sergeant Hale? Right on time. Welcome to the Transition Center. We've prepped a few excellent candidates, Belgian Malinois labs, all certified for mobility assistance and PTSD support. They're calm, well-socialized, ready to start bonding right away. Marcus adjusted his glasses. I appreciate that, but I'm not here for calm. I'm here for a dog that knows what it's like to carry ghosts. Riley blinked once, then recovered with a quick nod. Understood, sir. Follow me. They walked down the long central corridor. Kennels stretched on both sides, chain link and concrete. Most dogs reacted immediately, tails sweeping the floor, soft, eager whines, paws pressing against the bars as if to close the distance. The air smelled of kibble, wet fur, disinfectant, and something warmer, almost hopeful. But as they passed into the reinforced isolation wing, the mood shifted. The lighting dimmed slightly, the barks grew lower and rougher, carrying an edge of warning rather than welcome. At the very end stood a single kennel separated from the rest, wrapped in bright red caution tape that fluttered faintly in the air current. Stenciled in bold black, restricted Reaper. Do not approach without authorization. Marcus stopped in front of it. Behind the thick steel bars stood a Belgian Malinois. Coal-black coat with sharp tan accents, 85 pounds of lean, scarred muscle packed tight under short fur. Reaper's amber eyes fixed on him instantly, unblinking. A low growl began deep in his chest and rolled outward, vibrating the floor, the bars, Marcus's boots. Riley spoke quietly beside him. Not this one, Sergeant. Reaper was one of the finest explosive detections dogs the Corps ever fielded. 3 full tours in Afghanistan paired with Master Sergeant Daniel Torres. They were more than handler and dog. They were brothers in every way that mattered. When Torres was killed in an IED strike, Reaper was right beside him. He dug through burning rubble for hours, refusing to leave the body even as the area was still hot. Medics and handlers had to tranquilize him to extract him. After that day, he was never the same. He attacked 2 transition handlers, nearly shattered a trainer's wrist during evaluation. Command labeled him untrainable, unadoptable. Euthanasia paperwork has been submitted. It's only a matter of time. Marcus stood still, listening. The growl wasn't pure rage. Beneath it lay a hollow, wounded sound, the same hollow that lived in his own chest when the nightmares came. He had heard it in his own voice sometimes, late at night when no one else was around. Tell me about Torres, Marcus said. Blast was instantaneous. Reaper found him in the debris, stood guard over the body. Wouldn't let anyone close. When they finally pulled him away, he turned on the team, like he blamed every human left alive for taking his partner. Marcus took one step closer. Reaper's nostrils flared wide. Marcus still wore his old dog tags beneath his shirt, faint traces of desert sand, gun oil, cordite, and the lingering scent of fierce sweat from patrols that had overlapped with Torres's unit years ago. Reaper's growl cut off abruptly. His ears flicked forward. A short, uncertain whine slipped from his throat. His tail gave one slow flick, not a wag, but an acknowledgement. Riley stared. He stopped. I've never seen him do that. Marcus lowered himself slowly to one knee, prosthetic joint creaking. You smell it too, don't you, boy? The same war. The same loss. Reaper pressed his nose to the cold bars, inhaling deeply, steadily. For the first time in more than a year, the dog did not lunge or snap. He simply held Marcus's gaze. Something passed between them, quiet, unspoken recognition. From the observation window down the hall, staff members had gathered, watching in stunned silence. Riley's voice dropped to a whisper. "Sir, protocol says we can't." "I want his full file," Marcus said, eyes still on Reaper. "And I want to go inside that kennel." The request hung in the heavy air like smoke after an explosion. Major Elena Vasquez arrived minutes later, boots striking the floor with purpose, face set in the hard lines of someone who had seen too many impossible requests granted and regretted. She pulled Reaper's digital file up on her tablet, scrolling through incident reports, bite logs, veterinary notes, and psychological evaluations, all stamped with urgent red flags. "Sergeant Hale, this is not negotiable. Reaper has seriously injured trained personnel. You are a decorated veteran with documented physical and psychological disabilities. I cannot and will not authorize you to enter that kennel. The liability alone would end careers." Marcus turned to face her fully. "Ma'am, with respect, I've stared down worse odds than a grieving dog. In the corridor just now, he didn't attack me. He recognized something. Give me one supervised session to show you." Vasquez held his gaze. She knew his record by heart. Silver Star for valor under fire, 3 Purple Hearts, countless commendations for dragging wounded Marines from kill zones while rounds snapped overhead. But she also saw the subtle tremor in his hands when he spoke of loss, the way his grip tightened on the cane when memories pressed too close. She exhaled slowly. "One session. Trang team on immediate standby outside the door. One sign of aggression, and we terminate the interaction." "Clear. Clear." The heavy reinforced door clanked open with a metallic groan. Marcus stepped inside alone. The kennel smelled sharply of steel, old urine, and something deeper, raw desperation layered with grief. Reaper backed up instantly, hackles rising along his spine, lips peeling back to reveal white teeth. A deep, rumbling growl filled the small space. Marcus kept his movements slow. He spoke in the low, steady cadence he had once used to talk his squad through mortar barrages. "I know what it feels like, boy. To lose the one person who made the world make sense in the middle of hell. To wake up every morning and wonder why you're still here when they're gone." Reaper circled him warily, nose working the air. He paused at the prosthetic leg, sniffed the scarred hand, then lifted his head higher, toward Marcus's chest. Marcus eased his shirt open, just enough for the dog tags to catch the dim light. Reaper pressed his nose firmly against them. A choked, broken whine escaped him. Not aggression, but memory. Danny Torres had worn tags just like these. The same dust clung to them. The same sweat. The same ghosts from overlapping deployments. Reaper took one deliberate step forward. His broad head nudged Marcus's open palm. The growl dissolved completely. He leaned in, resting the full weight of his body against Marcus's legs, as if he had finally found something solid enough to trust. Outside, handlers tightened their grip on trank poles. Vasquez's voice came over the intercom, quieter than before. "This is not protocol. This is not possible." Marcus placed one hand gently on Reaper's thick neck. The fur felt warm, ridged with old scars. "He's not dangerous anymore. He's waiting. Waiting for someone who carries the same weight." Reaper exhaled, a long, shuddering breath that seemed to release months of tension. For the first time in anyone's memory, the dog looked almost calm. 10 minutes passed in near total silence. Just the soft rhythm of 2 hearts beating in the same small space. 2 survivors sharing air without need for words. But when Marcus turned toward the door to begin paperwork, Reaper's body stiffened. He shifted to block the exit, eyes locked on Marcus, a low growl building again. Not aimed at him, but at the very idea of being left behind once more. Trank darts rose in the handler's hands. "Easy," Marcus murmured. "I'm coming back for you. I promise." Handlers moved in carefully and guided Marcus out. The latch clicked shut. Instantly Reaper exploded, hurling his body against the bars, snarling, barking, claws scraping steel in raw, desperate fury. The sound rolled down the corridor like a wounded cry that refused to end. Morning light filtered weakly through the rain-streaked windows when Marcus returned, adoption forms clipped under his arm. Vasquez waited in her office, posture rigid. "The review board has made its decision. Request denied. Reaper's behavioral history is too severe." The liability exposure is unacceptable. We cannot release him, even to a veteran of your standing. Marcus set the papers on her desk. He's not a liability, ma'am. He's a reflection. Angry. Lost. Waiting for the next blast that never stops echoing. If you put him down, you kill the last part of Danny Torres that's still trying to survive. Vasquez looked away for a moment. She had buried family in Iraq. She understood. But regulations were unyielding. I'm sorry, Sergeant. The answer stands. Marcus left the building under gray skies, chest tight with something heavier than disappointment. Night fell hard. A Pacific storm swept in, winds howling through the pines, lightning splitting the dark like incoming fire. Alarms shrieked across the base, lightning strike to the old kennel wing. Electrical fire. Smoke billowed through vents and corridors. Handlers sprinted to release adoptable dogs, leashing them and leading them to safety. But the isolation wing remained sealed under high-risk protocol. Reaper's kennel filled with choking black smoke. He rammed the bars repeatedly, barking in frantic bursts, claws tearing at steel until blood streaked the concrete. Marcus, in his small off-base apartment 5 miles away, saw the emergency scroll on his phone. His pulse spiked. He grabbed his cane, coat, and keys, driving through blinding rain. At the gate he flashed his ID. Reaper is trapped in the fire zone. Security blocked the road. Fire team is responding. The wing is compromised. Civilians and non-essential personnel stay clear. Marcus didn't argue. He slipped past the barrier in the chaos of flashing lights and shouting, guided by instinct and the distant, frantic barking that cut through the storm like a lifeline. Smoke stung his eyes and burned his throat. Heat rolled toward him in waves. His prosthetic slipped on slick floors, but he pressed deeper, cane tapping wildly. Reaper! Hold on, boy. Flames licked up the walls of the isolation wing. Reaper heard the voice and his bark shifted, sharp, directional, guiding Marcus straight to him. Marcus reached the kennel. The lock glowed red-hot. He wrapped his coat around his hand and pulled with everything he had. The mechanism refused to budge. Reaper hurled himself at the gate one final time, body slamming steel. The lock snapped. The door flew open. Reaper burst out, not lunging to attack, but circling Marcus once, then pressing his side firmly against him. With careful shoulder nudges and body weight, he guided Marcus forward, steering him around falling debris, away from spreading flames, step by deliberate step. A massive roof beam groaned and collapsed behind them in a shower of sparks and embers. Reaper never hesitated. He kept Marcus moving until cold rain lashed their faces outside. Firefighters froze in place as the dog everyone had written off stood protectively over the wounded Marine, growling low at anyone who stepped too close. Major Vasquez arrived moments later, drenched, staring at the scene. Later, security footage would show it all in stark clarity. Reaper shielding Marcus, navigating the inferno with precision no one had believed possible, refusing to let him fall. The base hummed with the story for days. The video spread quietly among handlers, veterans, and command staff. Reaper shielding a half-blind Marine through flames, guiding him like he had been waiting his whole life for the task. But official channels moved at their own slow pace. Vasquez faced mounting questions from above. He remains classified high risk. One future incident, and the liability falls on us. Marcus refused to let it end there. He filed formal appeals, gathered letters from veteran service organizations, contacted the Warrior Dog Foundation for expert endorsements. Every afternoon he returned to the facility, sitting on the bench just outside Reaper's kennel, speaking in low tones about Fallujah patrols, about Danny Torres's laugh, about nights when the darkness felt like it would never lift. Reaper changed in small but visible ways. His tail flicked when Marcus's footsteps approached. He ate full bowls without pacing. He slept curled in the corner instead of circling restlessly all night. Weeks dragged on. Vasquez summoned him to her office one gray morning. The board reviewed the fire footage. They see what I see, a legitimate, exceptional bond. Conditional approval granted. Mandatory joint training program, comprehensive liability waiver, updated psychological evaluations for both of you. Marcus signed every page without pause. Training started the following week. Reaper wore a fitted service vest for the first time. Marcus learned the standard commands, but the real work was trust. Reaper learning to guide him around obstacles, alerting to sudden noises that triggered old memories, standing steady when panic rose. Marcus's nightmares grew less violent. Reaper's tension eased like a fist slowly opening. In one high-stress simulation, Crowd recordings, flashing lights, sudden bangs, Reaper froze, muscles locked in flashback. Marcus dropped to one knee immediately. "We're safe, boy. Right here. Together." Reaper leaned into him slowly. Tail low but steady. Healing arrived not in dramatic moments, but in quiet, repeated steps forward. Months later, under a rare clear sky on base, a quiet ceremony unfolded. Reaper received his official service dog certification. Marcus stood in pressed dress blues, prosthetic gleaming, dark glasses reflecting sunlight. Major Vasquez stepped forward and pinned a badge to Reaper's vest. Guardian, retired military working dog. The small crowd, fellow veterans, handlers, a handful of families, rose in applause. Reaper sat tall beside Marcus, ears forward, eyes calm. No steel bars separated them anymore. No labels clung. Only purpose remained. They moved to a modest house near Puget Sound, windows facing water and evergreens. Reaper learned practical tasks quickly, pushing open doors, retrieving medication bottles during panic spikes, waking Marcus from nightmares with a gentle nose nudge until breathing steadied. At night he slept at the foot of the bed, heavy head resting across Marcus's prosthetic leg like an anchor holding him to the present. One evening they walked the rocky beach at low tide. Distant thunder rumbled across the water, an old echo of artillery. Marcus paused, came planted in wet sand. Reaper pressed close, ears perked, body warm against his leg. "You saved me that night," Marcus said quietly. "Not just from the fire. From every night that came after. From the part of me that thought I'd never feel steady again." Reaper looked up, amber eyes clear and unwavering. His tail moved, slow, deliberate, real. They were not flawless. Scars remained on both bodies and minds. Nightmares still arrived uninvited sometimes. But they walked forward together. One Marine, one Malinois, two survivors who had found home in each other's presence. Pain had recognized pain. In that simple recognition, both had begun to heal.